Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm excited to have on the table today a Thompson Center compass in 30-06. This one's wearing a Nikon 3-9x40 Buckmaster scope with the BDC reticle. This rifle's been cleared, safe to handle, using a set of Weaver steel rings. Thompson Center compass has a closed receiver, similar to what you'd see in a Tikka, and unlike what you see on a Remington 700 or any of the Mauser clones, Winchester Model 70, Ruger M77. A lot of people think that an enclosed receiver like this is a little stiffer and kind of lends itself to accuracy, and there might be something to that. So the Thompson Center compass, this one, weighs in at 7¼ pounds naked without the scope and unloaded. It has a 13¼ inch length of pull, which is good for most people. It's a little bit short for me. I have long arms. The barrel on this rifle is 22 inches with a 1-in-10 twist rifling. And it is 5R rifling. If you're not familiar with that, the brief description is traditional rifling has an even number of lands. The theory is the rifling can actually distort the bullet a bit. With an odd number of lands, you don't have the lands directly across from each other, and supposedly there's less distortion on the bullet. And also, allegedly, it makes them easier to clean. All of the TC compasses come threaded. This one is with 5/8 by 24 threads. Now the action is a push feed with a 3-lug bolt. I like the 3-lug bolt. It feels like a good solid positive lockup, and also 3 lugs allows for a short bolt lift. TC compass is 60 degrees, whereas most 2-lug bolts require a 90-degree lift. So at 60 degrees, you have tons of clearance for the scope. Even if you're wearing pretty heavy gloves, you're not going to get anywhere near the scope. These rifles come with a Rotary Magazine, which is similar in design to the Ruger American, but in my opinion is quite a bit stronger. It feels like a stronger, thicker polymer. It just feels much more robust. The little flip lever there has quite a bit more spring tension than the rotary mag that you see with the Ruger American. And we've had 0 problems with this in initial testing. Works great. And with the rotary mag and the Ruger American, tons of problems. I had to actually go in and polish it and trim a little bit off the lips to make it feed properly. No issues with this whatsoever. It fits flush, which I like in a hunting rifle. Holds 5 rounds on standard. Magnum chamberings holds 4 rounds. The stock is your run-of-the-mill basic injection molded polymer. It has an integrated trigger guard. There is no bottom metal on the rifle. It's all polymer. The barrel is free-floated and pretty generously. And I've noticed that the polymer on this stock, you'll hear me comparing this to the Ruger American quite a bit. It's the other budget rifle that I've had my hands on and I've shot a lot. I think the stock is a little nicer than on the American. It's a little stiffer, doesn't have quite as much flex to it. Rifles ship with this barrel protector. I guess it's to go up here for holding on the rack, but when a rifle comes with one of these and with the polymer stock, I like to actually jam it back in there in the stockaways during storage. That maintains that free float in case there's any pressure on the stock. You don't have it warping over time and coming into contact with the barrel. But of course you want to make sure that's off of the rifle before you do any shooting, because your barrel won't be free float anymore. It'll definitely throw off the harmonics and change your point of impact. The action is pillar bedded. It has aluminum pillars in the stock, which I think is a really nice touch. Most budget rifles like this, even some more expensive rifles with injection molded stocks, have no bedding whatsoever. Ruger has kind of a V-block bedding that works pretty well. This has more traditional aluminum pillars. Now the trigger on these rifles, they claim is adjustable from 4.5 to 5.5 pounds. This one was breaking at right around 7 pounds out of the box. That's way too heavy in my opinion, even for a dedicated hunting rifle. It's hard to get good accuracy with a trigger that heavy. And rather than adjust the trigger to shave a pound off it, we ordered a replacement trigger spring from an outfit called Old Beaver. The trigger spring was only $10 plus shipping on eBay, and it made a huge difference in the trigger pull. Now, out of the box, the trigger, like I said, super heavy, but it felt pretty darn good. It breaks clean, it doesn't feel gritty. The trigger really has no, or virtually no creep to it. Almost no over travel. It breaks clean. It felt good, even really heavy. But man, 7 pounds or even 6 pounds, that's crazy heavy. So after changing the trigger spring, we now break right around 3 pounds. There's right at 3. Same right at 3, very consistent. And 3 pounds is really good for a hunting rifle, in my opinion. It's enough resistance that if you're wearing gloves, it's not too light. If you're under stress, 3 pounds feels pretty good. It's plenty light enough to get good accuracy and still have a reasonable margin of safety. Speaking of the safety, for anyone who's had a Ruger M77 in recent years, or Winchester Model 70, this safety is very similar to that. 3-position, all the way back, bolt locks. Halfway position, bolt will function, but the trigger is locked. All the way forward is fire, of course. For the type of hunting we do here in Alaska, the ability to lock the bolt down is really important. I've attempted to carry rifles in the bush, like the Ruger American, that has a 2-position safety that does not lock the bolt. And if you do that long enough, you're gonna find that your bolt will pop open. It'll be like that, or worse yet, it'll be like that. Not good. Hunting in the bush, you want your bolt to lock. I really prefer a 3-position tang safety, but I don't really see too much of those anymore, I suppose on the Savages, but most of the rifles with 3-position safety have adopted the Winchester 70 style. I'm really used to it. It works good. This one, a little stiff, but it'll probably soften up a bit. The engagements are really positive. It has kind of a ball and detent system that locks it in there. Like the safety, very good. Bolt handle is a little strange. It does have some grip to it, not bad. Definitely not too large. And the bolt handle is pretty easily changeable. Bolt comes apart very easily, nothing to it. The entire bolt handle can be changed out, but the aftermarket ones that I've seen so far are pretty darn expensive. I think in the $75 range. It's kind of hard to justify on a rifle with an MSRP of $399. The butt pad is reasonably soft and squishy, absorbs the shock really well. So this rifle belongs to my son-in-law, and its main purpose is going to be for moose hunting, general purpose Alaskan hunting. 30-06, the classic cartridge, been around over 100 years. It's been used in Alaska extensively, has taken all of the big game species up here, including really nasty brown bears on Kodiak and right around here too. Of course, normally for critters that want to eat you or gore you, I go for a Magnum, but 30-06 has got it done for many years for a lot of people. It's a very versatile cartridge to load for. 30-06 is never ever going to go away. You can load it anywhere from 125 grain varmint bullets all the way up to 240 grain dangerous game bullets like the Woodley Weld Core. Big enough for the really big game, but not too big for medium-sized game. I've killed more deer with the 30-06 in my life than any other cartridge by far, and it just works. For guys who don't hand load, there's unlimited options for factory ammunition. Everything from very inexpensive military surplus full metal jacket plinking ammo up to safari grade stuff and everything in between. So for the purpose of moose hunting, we want to develop a good thumper load. Probably the most popular weight for the 30-06 for bullet selection is 180 grain, and for many, many decades the most popular bullet has been the Nosler Partition. 30-06 and 180 grain Nosler Partition have probably taken more moose, elk, brown bear, and other big game than any other combination, or probably any other 2 or 3 combinations put together. It just flat out works. If you've never used Nosler Partition, you should give them a try. They've been around since 1948, and in all those years it's really the standard that hunting bullets are held to. The legend has it that John Nosler had a very bad experience on a moose hunt in British Columbia using the typical cup and core bullets that were pretty much all that was available at the time to hunters. He shot a very large bull moose and emptied his rifle into this moose and was not getting penetration. The bullets were fragmenting and doing superficial damage. He unloaded his rifle into this bull and actually had to reload the rifle and shoot it some more. And that sort of thing, man, that would leave a scar on any hunter. That is not a situation you want to deal with. And you know, if he had been on a brown bear hunt and that had happened, none of us would have ever heard of John Nosler or the Nosler Bullet Company. But after that hunt, he went to the drawing board and came up with a bullet design that would not disintegrate on heavy and dangerous game. His idea was to have a partitioned bullet where the jacket is separated by a partition. The front part is designed to expand rapidly, do massive damage, but the rear part under the partition holds together and helps drive the bullet forward. So you get a good combination of excellent expansion, lots of damage, lots of organ damage, and very deep penetration. Often a pass-through shot, even on pretty big animals like elk and moose. This bullet works fantastic. I killed a ton of deer with 30-06 and Nosler Partitions back in the day. I stopped using them for deer because of the amount of meat damage. It's a significant amount of damage. In my opinion, it's really overkill for medium-sized game. That is, if it's a quartering shot anyway. If the animal is broadside and you can put it straight through the animal behind the shoulder, it's fine. But if you shoot into a quarter, either into the front quarter, either if the animal's quartering towards you or away, you're going to lose at least one front quarter of the animal. And I've always been primarily a meat hunter, so that, to me, that's just not acceptable. For smaller animals like deer, I've gone to a lighter bullet weight and generally a bonded bullet or a alloy like Barnes. They work fine. Smaller animals, they do a lot less damage. But on big animals like a moose, Nosler Partition is still excellent. Granted, we meat hunt for moose, so we're still looking to get that shot nicely behind the front shoulder, broadside if possible, and do as little meat damage as possible. But the moose doesn't always cooperate. Sometimes he's quartering. So for this purpose, we're going to go with the 200 grain Nosler Partition rather than the 180 grain. We want to get that velocity down a little bit, and limit the amount of violent expansion from the front section of that bullet. It'll still do a lot of damage, but a 180 grain bullet fragments violently at 2,700 feet per second out of a 30-06. A 200 grain bullet going 24 to 2,550 feet per second, much less violent expansion, but much deeper penetration. So I really think the 200 grain Nosler Partition for 30-06 is just about perfect for moose. Of course, we could go round and round on that. Anything 180 grain bonded is going to do probably just as good. But I really like the idea of the 200 grain, especially for the fact that anytime you're moose hunting in Alaska, there's a really good chance that while you're hunting moose, you're being hunted by a grizzly or a brown bear. We're out calling moose, you know, thrashing brush. The brown bears, the grizzlies, they hear that. They think it's a moose. They think there's a cow moose or something going on, and it happens. I mean, they come in ready to kill, and these brown bears can and do kill full-size moose. And when they come in like a Mack truck wanting to kill and tear something apart and eat you. So if you're hunting moose with a 30-06 or anything really, bring enough gun and bring a bullet that's at least up to the challenge. Now, granted, 30-06 is no bear cartridge, but I'd sure feel a lot better with 200 grain partitions in that 30-06 than I would 150 grain barns or something like that. So what we have here, I've loaded up 40 rounds with Winchester brass, Federal 210 primers, and the 200 grain Nosler Partition. The first 20, we loaded 5 4-shot groups with hybrid 100V powder. The other 20 rounds are with Hodgdon's H4350. Hybrid 100V I've had very good luck with. I've gotten good velocity, good accuracy in the past. It is a single base powder, so it's a little bit more touchy when it comes to temperature. We don't want to get too close to max with the 100V, because our load development is going to happen at probably 30 degrees and our hunting will probably happen at 50 degrees. And if with this powder, the velocity can go up quite a bit with the temperature. So we want to stay well under max. And in the event that these get used for, you know, for a hiking load in the middle of summer, it might be hot. And you certainly wouldn't want to be way over pressure if you have to use it for bear defense or something like that. I do prefer the double base extruded powders like H4350. Much more temp stable. I've shot them anywhere from 20 below to, you know, 70, 75 above, and they're always really close, very little fluctuation. But I have tended to get a little bit higher velocity out of the ball powders and single base extruded powders like hybrid 100V. My initial impression of the rifle is really, really good. The first shots through this rifle were with factory ammo. It was Winchester Super X 165 grain, one of the cheapest ammos we could get just for the initial sight-in. We did a full barrel break-in with the factory ammo, and then did a quick development using Hodgdon's Varget and Hornady 165 grain interlock bullets, pretty cheap bullet. Real good hunting load for deer or even black bear, but not something I would really use for moose and bigger critters like that. With the factory ammo, this rifle shot just over an inch groups at 100 yards, which is very good, especially for a brand new barrel not broken in. With a very short load development with the 165 interlocks, it was keeping 5 rounds all at or under an inch, which I thought was very good. I think the rifle is capable of some very good accuracy with some more extensive hand loading. The TC Compass comes with a 3-shot one MOA guarantee. So 3 shots inside an inch at 100 yards roughly is their guarantee. So, you know, most rifles these days will do that, even with factory ammo. So it's not a huge claim to fame, but it is kind of a lemon guarantee. If you got one with a really bad barrel that's shooting a 2-inch group, you know, it's covered. They're going to take care of that for you. You don't have to just live with it. For the moose hunting loads with the 200 grain partitions, we're not really looking for under an inch. That'd be great, but honestly, most of the moose up here are killed well within 100 yards, and a lot of them at 40, 50, 60 yards when you're calling. So the 200 grain partition, if it'll reliably put them all in 1.5 inches or 2 inches, that'd be fantastic. I think it's going to do better than that though. So that's it for now. Next stop is the shooting range. Be sure to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming up.